Welcome to the RV Connects podcast, where we cut through the fluff and get straight to the gear that truly matters. If you're a first-time RVer or just looking to keep it simple, this episode is for you. Today, we'll be breaking down the must-have tools that every RV owner needs in order to stay out of trouble, protect their rig, and make sure their first steps into the camping lifestyle are nothing but smooth sailing. Forget flashy gadgets and gimmicks. We're talking about the trusted essentials that will save you time, money, and headaches on the road. So buckle up, let's dive into the bare bones basics that will keep your rig running right and ready for adventure. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 53 of the RV Connects podcast. It is a very special treat today because you get to hear a whole lot less of me and a whole lot more of Dan the Man. He is going to talk to you today about RV maintenance and some of the really critical basic necessities that you will need if you're just starting out without overdoing it. I, of course, will be here for color commentary and to let Dan know if I think he's said something wrong, as all happily married couples do.
Hi guys, I'm glad to be here. I think this is my big tryout for the big time, so hopefully, you like what you hear. What I really want to talk about is the bare essentials to get you out the door. And so it's the middle of February right now when we recorded. It's 10 degrees Celsius. That's about 14 Fahrenheit. It's going to drop overnight to minus 15 Celsius down to 5 Fahrenheit. We're going to get 8 inches of snow tonight. Our youngest daughter came in to say goodnight, and she's hoping that we're having a big bus day. So it's, needless to say, been a great year for everybody who skis and snowmobiles, and maybe not so much if you have to shovel the driveway, which is all to say I think we're all excited to get started on the RV season in a couple of weeks. And even though it's mid-February, it'll be early May in no time, and maybe even want to scoot out the door in April and get an early kick on the season if, Groundhog Day worked in your favor. I think the way to maybe think about this is maybe you have bought yourself a trailer in the fall and you haven't had a chance to take it out, or maybe you've bought one at an RV show, or you're buying one coming up and you're about to take that trailer out the door for the first time. And when you pick up that trailer, you're not necessarily going to have everything in the trailer that you're going to need. So what we really want to do is we talk about the griddles and the wine glasses and the fancy lawn chairs, but there's some bare essentials that you really need to get you out the door. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to give you some prices. So just to set the stage here, we're going to talk about a 30 amp travel trailer, and we're going to talk about this in Canadian dollars. And I got most of my prices off of Amazon. So just maybe keep that in mind as we go through this. The other way that I'm going to present this is I'm going to kind of go through this in the order that you're going to use everything. So if you're riding along in the car, taking the train to work, out for a walk, think about the way your weekend or your week's going to go. You've left the house and you've pulled into the campsite for the first time, and I'm going to give you this in the order that you need it. So you've got your trailer, you've got into your campsite. One of the first things that you want to do is make sure that you're close enough to your utilities, so your post for water and electricity. The worst thing that you can have is to be 3 inches too short. So do a quick double check before you finally determine that you're in the right spot.
Anybody who's ever camped at Inverhuron Provincial Park in Ontario will know that the nearest outlet is always going to be 7 miles away from your trailer.
Yeah, Melina usually packs me a little lunch and I head off into the forest, and trope away and get ourselves hooked up. So just want to make sure that you're close to you're the right distance from your post. That probably matters a little bit more in a provincial park or a state park than it does in, say, an RV resort. However, before we hook everything up, the first thing that you need to do is you need to level your trailer. So in order to level your trailer, you're going to need a set of leveling blocks. That's going to run you, say, $80 to $100. I prefer the Lego style square ones that you kind of click together and you increase the height by, say, 1.5 inches through each increment, as opposed to the kind of semicircular roll onto
the Anderson levelers. Yeah.
So the reason I like these, they're a little bit simpler. The other thing is they serve a dual purpose. So you can have a stack of these leveling blocks, but they can also go under your stabilizer. They can go under your jack. You can use them in a lot of different places, not just leveling the tires of your trailer. So that's kind of why I say the Lego style ones are the best ones to go with.
You can use them for yoga blocks. You could construct a aerobic stepper out of them. We have used them for a lot of things. And I fully agree that I think they're probably a little more versatile too, where you have a really sharp, like unlevel site situation. And we had that one year at Bass Lake, I think up near Aurelia, when we went camping with your mom. And the trailer it was like one of the last sites in the park, and it was a long weekend. And you couldn't have picked a less level site. And it was kind of a small site for the size of the trailer. So I think we probably we have 2 sets, and we used both sets just to level the trailer and had none left over for the jack.
Right. So, and that's not the only park where we've had that. We probably find ourselves once a year where we need an extra set. So we do have 2 sets. We probably find that ourselves, once or twice a year, we need to use the second set. Before you unhitch your trailer, you need to chalk your wheels. So chalk both sides of the wheels. Not only does it help with the trailer rolling away, it can take out a little bit of the sway when you're walking back and forth inside the trailer. You need a set of chalks, and that can run you about $35. The best ones are the ones that we use, are made out of the same kind of plastic that our leveling blocks are made out of. And then the third thing that you want is you want a little level. And so what we do is, and this is how it begins at our campsite, is Melina eyeballs it to see how close she is in terms of making her little prediction if we're level or not.
Am I ever wrong?
You're not usually wrong, and it's a little game we play that keeps we all have a good chuckle about it, but we do have a little torpedo level. You can pick one of these up at your local hardware store. You can get one off of Amazon. They're about $15, give or take. We like to use that because you can kind of take level off a couple of different places. You can take it off the frame. You can take it off, off the frame up by the hitch. You can take it off the floor. You can take it off the fridge. You certainly want to have a level trailer just for the sake of not rolling out of bed. You also want to have a level trailer because that's how most of these fridges work. They need to be level to circulate the chemicals properly. So to prevent damage in the trailer, you want to have a level fridge within reason. And so the little torpedo level lets you just kind of plop it on one of the shelves in the fridge and know how level that you are. Once you've unleveled, you've chalked the vehicle, then you can unhitch and pull forward a little bit. The next stage on that is you're going to want to hook up your electricity. So first thing that you're going to want is a surge protector. Surge protector is going to plug itself into the post. It's going to run you about $80. It's a great idea. We went a lot of years without having one, and I feel a little bit more comfortable now that we have one because it's going to protect the trailer against power surges. It's also going to protect all of your electronics. So, I imagine there's a lot of people with phones and speakers and laptops and, TVs are getting more sophisticated in a trailer than they were, say, even 10 or 15 years ago. So a surge protector is a great idea. You can certainly spend more than $80, but I think you can get a fairly reasonable one off of Amazon for $80. Melina kind of alluded to this, when you're camping at a provincial park like Inver Huron, you're probably going to want to have an extension cable with you. So in our particular case, we have a 30 amp extension cable. 50 feet is probably a good number to aim for. Keep in mind, you're going to have your shore cable that's going to be 10 to 15 feet. Another 50 feet's probably going to get you connected to most places. That's going to set you back about $120. And I have to think that that's probably one of the most expensive things on the list here today.
If you're thinking about getting like a countertop ice maker or a good extension cord, you're probably going to find that you get much more use out of the extension cord. So all of that to say, there's a lot of really glitzy, amazing things that you can kit out your camper with, but it's kind of like if you buy a house that doesn't have good bones and want to renovate it real pretty, like you want to make sure that you have the basics to just cover yourself in case of power surges, emergencies, etc.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last thing I think is always good to have, it's called a dog bone. Essentially, this is a 30 amp to a 15 amp connector. And of course, if you have a larger unit, you can get ones that are 50 to 15 and so on. But, since we're talking about a 30 amp travel trailer here, what this lets you do is, and where it gets used the most often, and at least for us, is when we park the trailer in the driveway, we can then plug into a 15 amp electrical outlet outside of the house, and that'll just let us run a few basic things off of the trailer. So you maybe not use it when you're out camping, but it's for $15 or $20, it's a great thing to have because you're probably going to use it a couple of times during the year. So by now, hopefully you've got the trailer going, the AC's running, the fridge can flip over to electricity. Hopefully we've got a bit of buzz in the campsite. Any tensions over getting level and getting backed in are gone away, and everybody's friends again. So next thing you want to look at is you want to look at your water hookups. One of the most important things you can get is a water pressure regulator, and it only costs you about $17. It's a small little brass fitting that goes on at the end of your hose. What I think this means is you're getting a lot of peace of mind. It's not necessarily going to prevent every leak, but it's going to prevent any leaks that are a result of a trailer park or a park or anywhere that's got extra high water pressure that could potentially damage the inside of your trailer. Another great thing to have is a 50-foot water hose, and I mean a dedicated hose for your water. We don't use this for washing or for anything else. It's only used for drinking water. That's going to set you back about $40. Sometimes you can find the water's a little bit further away in some places, or maybe you're going to boondock, or maybe you're going to, camp at, say, a Harvest Host, or perhaps, you're at a festival in a municipal campground. Sometimes the water can be a little further away. Maybe you need to fill up the trailer at home. So it's a great thing to have. We have probably accumulated the better part of 100 feet of hose, but I think probably starting off with 50 feet is just fine.
On the subject of water hoses, we see a lot of people who store their water hoses in totes. What's your opinion on that, Dan?
I think it really just doesn't let the air get to move through it. You think about putting your water hose inside a sealed container, then it goes into your trailer for a couple of weeks maybe. The air doesn't move through it. Here's what I do. I get the water hooked up to one end of the post, and I run a little bit of water through it for 2 or 3 minutes just to clean everything out. When we put it away, I make sure that I drain as much water out as I can. It's obviously not completely dry inside, but I think just allowing a little bit of air to get around it. We store ours in a big kind of laundry bag, and I think that, also just prevents any kind of mold growth on the outside of the hose as well.
Yeah. And to be clear, if you have a tote and you drill some holes in it, from a drainage and an airflow perspective, great. But if you are going to use that method, which is awesome, like it can be sanitary, just make sure you're having some sort of method of airflow.
Yeah, and then I think the last thing to talk about, and I guess this is not technically 100% necessary, because we're making the assumption that when you hook up to water, that the water system is tested and that it's potable and it's safe for drinking. But I think when you take a look around a campground, you're going to find most people hook up to a water filter. So this is, a little blue cylinder that's maybe about 12, 14 inches long. It's hooked in line, real simple, just connects to the garden hose, and that'll cost you, $25 or $30. How many you need is going to depend on how often you go camping, but we usually manage to get through a season with 2 or 3 cartridges. Would that be about accurate?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's kind of the last thing you need on the water side. By now you should be able to start your weekend. You have a great weekend, but what happens at the end of the weekend, everything that went into the trailer has to come out of the trailer. And by that, I mean, you need to dump your holding tanks. So what I'm going to tell you is going to be applicable whether you're at a full service hookup campsite and you're going to dump right at your campsite, or you're going to go to a dump station inside the park. So first thing you're going to need is a sewer hose. That's going to cost you about $50. Some people call it the stinky slinky. It's the big, kind of 3.5 inch, 4-inch diameter hose that goes in the bumper of your trailer. Most likely, I'm going to encourage everybody here and almost say that it's a necessity that you get yourself a clear elbow. And why this matters is the clear elbow connects to the hose into, the holding tank in the ground that the park provides. The reason that you want a clear one is you want to see what's coming out. Okay? The example I will use is we had a bunch of kids in our trailer one time. They got a little rambunctious. They put a lot of toilet paper down, and we kind of needed to make sure that everything came out. So what that lets you do is it lets you see what the flow rate is. Is everything coming out? Is there any problems? And a nice clear one, maybe only going to set you back about $35. You could probably go on Amazon, find something else, and that might be even a little bit cheaper, but I think it's money well spent.
If you are new to the podcast, I highly suggest that you go check out episode 2, which we literally called The Scoop on Poop, because it talks about all of that in a little more detail, how to prevent that. But essentially, this is your main way to make sure that what goes in comes out. There are also options for that clear sewer elbow that have a washout connector that if your trailer doesn't have the
black water flush,
water flush, thank you, that acts as that method where you can hook up a water hose to it, and it will just shoot right in from the outlet and do the same thing.
And then the last thing that you're going to need for dumping is disposable gloves. Please do not use, the old 1950s yellow kitchen gloves. Please don't use old work gloves. Everybody, we are not recycling these things. You're handling poop. So, once you're completely done dumping your tanks and you've rinsed everything off, the last thing you do is you take your disposable gloves and you put them into the garbage can, and then you wash your hands thoroughly. You don't recycle toilet paper, so please don't recycle your gloves, is my ask for everybody in the RV community.
And wear shoes.
And wear shoes, please. I think that's really everything that gets you through your first weekend or your first trip. There are certainly a lot more things that you can get. You know, Melina just kind of alluded to it. You can get a clear elbow, but at the same time, you can get an elbow with a washout thing. So what I tried to do was I'm thinking about people that are brand new to the RV lifestyle. I don't want you to have to start with anything more than absolutely necessary, and you're certainly going to have the opportunity to upgrade over your first season, but this kind of gets you out the door to enjoy your first weekend or your first week-long trip. And that was my goal. If you add all this up, it's going to bring you in at about $500. Keep in mind that's Canadian. It doesn't necessarily include the taxes. It doesn't necessarily include the shipping, but I'm going to guess most people are familiar with Amazon, and you can kind of do the mental math in your head, whether you live in Canada, the United States, or somewhere else, to figure out maybe what the tax would be on that.
Can I make a bonus offer of a bonus item that everybody should have?
Go for it.
And if they don't have it in their vehicle, they also should have, but a collection of assorted fuses.
Yeah, definitely have a collection of assorted fuses. I think probably this is a good segue to say maybe, if you want to connect with us on social media, let us know. But I feel like maybe another episode might be kind of the tier 2 things that are good to have around that you're probably going to use. You might not use them every single weekend. Things like toolkit, stuff like that, but maybe that's an episode for another day.
For sure. And if you are interested in seeing what we have in our rig, we have compiled a list of exactly the same items that we personally have chosen to buy and carry in our rig. We have put that on our website, rvconnects.com/RV basics. So RV Connects, RVCANUCKS.com/RV basics.
With that, I hope everybody stays warm, enjoys the last few weeks of winter, and we look forward to getting out on the road and getting around the campfire and having a lot of fun.
Sounds good, Dan. See you on the road.
Bye-bye.